Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti, and now, without further ado, our interview with a man who is considered one of the rising stars in the Democratic Party in New Jersey, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I want to start with this building moratorium on family-size homes in the city of Jersey City. Why are you doing that?
So, give a little perspective. We're growing. We have 18,000 units under construction, and while we like to see growth and development, the city also has a really special history. And over the last couple of years, you've seen kind of an escalation in these demolition permits that tear down some of the older Victorian-style homes, and they'll replace it with these 2 to 3 family homes that are very, very simple, box-like features. And we feel like the older homes are important to the aesthetic feel of the streets. And so we want to revamp and change the demolition ordinance and kind of change how the city approaches that.
So that's the reason for it. What do you hope to accomplish during the moratorium?
Yeah, well, look, if you went through the normal city council process and said, look, we have a first hearing, a second hearing, and then 20 days is legislatively what it takes to change the law, in that course of a month and a half, you would probably see hundreds of demolition permit applications come in. And then once they're filed, it would be hard for us to say no legally. So we used an executive order, we stopped them, we started the process of changing the ordinance. Once the ordinance is changed, we're going to take back the executive order and let it proceed. So this was a way just to do it to protect what we have, so you don't see developers taking advantage of the system.
Now the executive order is still being challenged, right?
It'll be challenged, it'll be done. The new law will be in place by the time the courts resolve it.
It does go, but the challenge does go to a philosophical question on
property rights.
Yeah, on property rights and the power of the mayor, and should the mayor be able to impose a moratorium just based on the style of a house or the way a house is supposed to look?
So let me say that our demolition laws today really have no basis in why we look at a historic home as 150 years. It was kind of put in place in 1991, our law, and it was based on one specific home where George Washington had a meeting during the Revolutionary War here in Jersey City, and they wanted to protect that home, so they said arbitrarily it's 150 years. That 150 years is not consistent with standards anywhere, so the new law is going to look at 50 years and give more flexibility to the planning and historic department. So we think we're going to be on good ground legally. That said, the argument about what cities can control or not control, if you want to take that argument to the next level, then the developer could say, well, why can't I build 10 stories on my small lot or 15 stories on my small lot? Who is the city to control that?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, there are limitations, but it seemed like you were talking about the style of homes. And I'll get into that in a second, but you were talking about you didn't want certain homes.
Well, look, I made a joke about the Bayonne box, right? And the style of the home is not necessarily the box-like features is what's concerning. It's the parking front of the house. So the house has a setback, and then you have a parking lot or driveway right in front of your home. What's problematic about that is 2 things. Number 1 is that the setbacks of the home facilitate the cars parking the sidewalks, number 1. Number 2, actually 3 things, takes down the trees on the street, so it destroys the streetscape. And then the third part about it is that you're kind of essentially privatizing the street, because the public street where a resident would have parked before, now the only person who can use that is the owner of that house, because he's got a driveway there and he could park in front of it. So there's real concerns about that style of house overall from a planning standpoint. So it's not the features from an aesthetic standpoint. I'm not one to judge that, but it is the character, what it does to the neighborhood.
I guess that all doesn't fit into a social media post.
It doesn't. It's not 140 characters, but I think that as we've done community meetings, there's people understand, okay, that kind of makes sense. I mean, there is some degree of sanity to the process that we put in place.
Council people in Bayonne are asking for an apology. They say that you insulted Bayonne.
I mean, look, I'm not going to apologize for something that people should kind of take a little bit lighter, so to speak. It wasn't meant in a malicious way. People make fun and make comments about Jersey City all the time. I think it got entirely blown out of proportion. And look, my social media is not like wordsmiths where 15 people look at it. It's me doing it, and if I have a thought or something, I just write it, and typos and jokes included, and sometimes they go flat, and sometimes I think they're funny. Other people think they're funny, so we'll just play it out from there.
I want to talk about your your position on legalized recreational marijuana.
Yeah.
You're for it, right?
Yeah, I'm for it.
You're for it.
Yeah, I don't see a big issue with it.
And yet you want to put a ban on the sale and growing in the city as a first step.
Yeah.
Explain
Why?
that.
Why? All right, so our planning laws today allow dispensaries or growing anywhere in the city. Probably most municipalities in New Jersey, if you look at kind of their codes, they would say that the retail sales would be no different than a liquor store or a grocery store, how you define retail. And so legally, if Trenton passed a law that we weren't comfortable with, but nevertheless they passed it, a person could come in here, say I'm going to open a dispensary on Newark Avenue or in Ward F, and the city would have no standing to fight that. Now, we're concerned because there's a lot of different proposals coming out of Trenton, and we really don't know ultimately what they're going to land on. Some said 2 dispensaries per district, some said 30 dispensaries per district, some said 10. So we want to be able to control what happens in Jersey City ultimately. So we think putting a restriction and clarifying our planning is the first step. We'll see what's passed in Trenton, work with the community groups here in Jersey City, and then decide what is best based on their feedback on how we want it to work. Now, go ahead.
It seems like it's controversial, and it seems like it's controversial because some people are afraid that that will put a damper on investment in Jersey City by the cannabis industry. But let me
just say the couple things that are important to me on this. So there is important that there's local ownership. Okay, so I don't know how Trenton's going to facilitate that, but I just don't want all the big corporations owning all the licenses and then being here in Jersey City. So we have a specific agenda regarding that. Secondly, there's obviously the social justice component that we want to make sure that dollars go to communities that were impacted. Third, Jersey City and Newark would likely carry the majority of the burden for selling in the state of New Jersey, just based on transportation and size. For us, even more so than Newark. And we want to know that there's a percentage of the sales specified for the cities that sell it. So we're going to deal with a lot of the costs and infrastructure to make that a reality. We don't want those taxes going to some nebulous fund controlled by state senators in Trent. We want to know that there's a specific amount for the cities that sell it. That's important to us as well.
Anything the state does could usurp what you do here, right?
Well, we control the zoning ultimately. So, and there's been no shortage of cannabis industry businesses that have reached out in order to look at opportunities here. So we control a lot of what happens from a zoning standpoint. So Trenton could say, hey, it's legal in New Jersey. Everybody wants to be in Jersey City. If we say, hey, only in this part or not in this part or we're not into it, Trenton has no say over that.
One comment that I've read that you made was you don't want to be New York's drug supplier.
Well, I don't, you know what, again, I was kind of making an off-the-cuff comment on that.
Are you going to apologize to New York?
Look, I look at it like this, right? I don't classify cannabis in the same way as I would other sort of drugs. Let's start there. What I was concerned about, and I continue to be concerned about, is that if all the dispensaries are just open in one part of the city, which would be down here next to the PATH stations, particularly downtown, not service the other parts of the city, you would see the majority of business coming from New York, coming across the river on the PATH, using our businesses, which is fine, and then just going across the river. I want to make sure that the dollars in the dispensaries are spread out throughout Jersey City, and it's done in a fair, democratic way. So those are the things that we want to control. We just don't want the businesses to be situated directly on the PATH stations to service New York City. We want to make sure that there is a service component that is equal throughout Jersey City.
I want to talk about the new Jackson Square and get involved in a little bit of politics when we come right back with Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop when Jersey Matters continues.